Number 5, the fifth change, the clothing of mockery. John chapter 19. This is actually where we're at. This is how I kind of got this idea from the Lord about doing a sermon on the clothing of Jesus. So let's see. First set of clothing, swaddling clothes, the clothing of ministry where power goes forth, the clothing of divinity, the clothing of a servant, and now the clothing of mockery. So chapter 19, verse 1, then Pilate took Jesus and he had him beat up, or flogged, depending on your version, right? The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a what? Purple robe. Why purple? Royalty. A king would wear a purple robe. So they put a kingly robe on him, and they went up to him again and again, said, "Hail, King of the Jews," because he's a king, and so he's in purple, and they slapped him in the face. Once more, Pilate came out and said to the Jews gathered there, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him." When Jesus came out, he's wearing that crown of thorns. He's got that crown on his head. He's got the purple robe that he's a king. And Pilate said to them, "Here is the man. Here is your king." And they go, as soon as the chief priests saw him, they shout out, "Crucify him, crucify him." So let me tell you some interesting things about this robe, this purple robe that a king would wear. In the Gospel of Luke, Luke uses a word that is very difficult to know exactly what it means about this robe, and almost every single Bible translation translates this word differently. So let's take a look at them. So it's the same account. This is in Luke 23, but I want you to see, these are all different Bible versions. I want you to see how they're all different. Luke 23:11, then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed him and mocked him, dressing him in a what? Elegant robe. New Living Translation, Jesus, finally they put a royal robe. English Standard Version, then arraying him in splendid clothing. Berean Standard Bible, they put him in a fine robe. Berean Literal Bible, putting him splendor apparel. And King James Bible, they arrayed him in a gorgeous robe. So isn't that interesting? Every version, but you get the feel, right? Many scholars believe it's similar to Joseph in the Old Testament, that his father gave him a robe of what? Many colors. But we know it was this beautiful robe that Jacob gave his son, and that robe spoke that Joseph, he was the favorite of Jacob. The other 11 brothers didn't appreciate it. But Jacob is like, Joseph is going to be the leader. He's going to be the head of the tribe. And that's why I've given him the special royal robe. It's many colors. It's splendor. It's a royal robe. Probably purple is the most dominant color. Now, you ready to get your heads blown for a little, or minds? In Mark, it's mentioned again. What's the color of the robe? Purple. In Mark, Gospel of Mark, it's mentioned that it's purple. But now come with me to Matthew chapter 27 for a moment. Don't lose John. We'll come back to John. Matthew 27, the same account, but something is different in Matthew 27. So let's get there. Matthew 27, starting in verse 27. It says, then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole country of soldiers around him. They stripped him and they put wait a second. What's it say here? They put a scarlet robe on him and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him. They took the staff and they struck him on the head again and again. And after they mocked him, they took off the robe and put on his own clothes on him, and they led him away to crucify him. Whoa, wait a second. What's going on here? In Mark and John, it's a purple robe. In Luke, it's a gorgeous robe. It's a royal robe. It's a beautiful robe. But in Matthew wasn't there, but his account says, no, people said it was a scarlet robe. A scarlet robe. So some believe that this is all in prophecy that started back with Jacob and Joseph. You remember that Joseph has that robe of many colors. His brothers are envious and jealous. They're going to kill him. They're going to kill Joseph. But they have to come up with a plan. So they take his robe. And what do they do with his robe before they take it back to Dad? They take the blood, the scarlet blood of an animal, and pour it on the robe. And then they take it to Jacob and say, Joseph's dead. That's his blood on the robe. And Jacob is mourning and doesn't realize until years later, there's in a sense a type of resurrection, and Joseph is to the right hand of Pharaoh and saves his family. And, oh man, it's a whole picture of the gospel. You know, Jesus, so the thought is, I know the liberals are like, that proves the Bible is wrong. You see there in John and Mark, it says the robe was purple. And now in Matthew, it's scarlet, it's red. See, there's a contradiction. You got to get rid of the Bible. Don't believe the Bible because look, they disagree, so throw it all out. But you know, when they put that purple robe on Jesus and then you put thorns, crowns of thorns on your head, do you know what happens when you get thorns piercing your head? You bleed profusely. Do you know what happens in John? It says they slapped Jesus across the face. Do you know what happens when you get slapped across the face over and over again? You get the biggest, bloodiest nose you've ever had, okay? You get a fountain, bloody nose, blood going. Do you know what happens when you take the staff and you whack someone in the head? They said they whacked Jesus in the head over and over again with the staff. As my wife pointed out in the book of Isaiah, it says he was so maimed in his head that he didn't even look human. He is bleeding scarlet blood all over that purple robe. And then they take him out and show him after they beat him up and the fake, and he's covered in his own blood. And so in one sense it's a purple robe, but in another sense it's a scarlet robe. And it's the same truth. And it's picturing Christ dying on the cross and the Father watching his own son die. And